On the Military Summary channel. In this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about the United States of America. You know that the 47th President of State, Donald Trump, wanted to get a Nobel Prize this year for his attempts and his efforts to settle conflicts across the world, but for some reason the President of States didn't get this prize. Telling the truth, I'm not sure whether the President of the United States of America deserves this medal, deserves this prize or not, but one thing is clear, that the President of the United States of America deserves a prize, let's say, for changing shoes while jumping. Obviously, he is a supreme champion in this discipline, and obviously there is no person in the world who can probably win him in this kind of sport. So I would like to remind you that yesterday the President of Ukraine, Zelensky, came to the United States of America, and the President of Ukraine, Zelensky, planned to have a meeting with Trump. And according to information we had yesterday, the President of the United States of America would provide Ukraine Tomahawk missiles. So that was the plan of Zelensky, at least yesterday in the morning. But later in the evening, everything changed. First of all, I would like to point your attention to this video. So this is the President of Ukraine, Zelensky, who came to the United States of America. And when he came to the United States of America, at this very moment, the President of Ukraine realized that everything goes wrong. You need to understand that if a person comes to the United States of America, and if this person will get Tomahawk missiles for some purposes, especially to attack deep inside of the territory of the Russian Federation, obviously this person would be met by probably the President of the United States of America, or at least by Vice President or something like this. In this video, we can see how Zelensky came to the United States of America, and he was met by chief of his office, Andriy Yermak, by some Ukrainian delegation, and would like to point your attention, by pilots of his own plane. So as you can see, nobody from the US authorities met Zelensky during this visit, and obviously Zelensky at this very moment understood that everything went wrong. So what went wrong? Let's discuss this in details. Right exactly when Zelensky came to the United States of America, when he stand on the surface of the United States of America, the President Trump made his first statement. He published his, this article in his social networks, telling us that he was speaking to President Putin right now. The conversation is ongoing, a lengthy one, and I will report the content, as will President Putin, at its conclusion. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And several hours later, the President of the United States of America made another statement. This time, the statement is much bigger, as you can see, and he shared with us his ideas and his understanding of a conversation that took place between him and Putin. I have just concluded my telephone conversation with President Vladimir Putin of Russia, and it was a very productive one. President Putin congratulated me and the United States on the great accomplishment of peace in the Middle East, something that he said has been dreamed of for centuries. I actually believe that the success in the Middle East will help in our negotiation in attaining an end to the war with Russia, Ukraine. President Putin thanked the First Lady. He stated lots of important things. Probably the most important part of this statement is that most likely the next week another meeting will take place on the territory of Europe, in Hungary, between President Trump and President Putin, and this is probably a very, very important thing. So Zelensky later stated that he didn't expect that Donald Trump would have a call with Putin right when he came to the United States of America. That was a very powerful attack, media attack on Zelensky himself. And right after this conversation, the President of the United States of America stated that the US needs Tomahawk missiles ourselves. We can't deplete our stockpiles by supplying them to Ukraine. We need Tomahawks. The US has plenty of them, but we need them. We can't deplete their stockpiles. We need them too. So obviously, we need to understand that today Zelensky and Ukraine will get nothing. They will not get Tomahawk missiles, and most likely Zelensky will return back to Ukraine empty-handed. So we see that it's something probably like betrayal. At least Zelensky will consider this as a betrayal of Trump, and obviously he will not get anything, and he will return back to Ukraine, and then he's gonna have to talk with his people, with Ukrainians and with population, trying to explain them why the President of the United States of America decided to change his mind not to give missiles to Ukraine, and why the President of the United States of America supported the Russian Federation that attacked every single day Ukraine energy facilities and infrastructural facilities and critical facilities and so on. And telling the truth, I'm sure that Zelensky will not be able to find words how to explain this. And furthermore, when talking about Ukraine itself, today, according to information we have, the Russians carry out another massive missile and drone attack across Ukraine, and this time the Russians attacked the city of Kryvyi Rog. Dozens of Grand 2 drones hit targets in the settlement, causing a serious fire at the impact site. So the situation is very difficult. Of course, we are waiting for this meeting between Trump and Zelensky. This meeting is going to take place, start at 8 p.m. Of the Ukrainian time, so this evening of Russian time, of Ukrainian time, and in the morning of the 17th of October of the US time. This is going to be obviously a very interesting meeting, but something tells me that Zelensky would be humiliated once again in the Oval Office, and as I told you, he would leave the United States of America completely empty-handed. Once again, I'm not sure whether the President of the United States of America deserves the Nobel Prize, but obviously he is an absolute champion in changing his shoes while jumping. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground, and first let's talk about the Kherson direction. During the previous 12 hours, we received lots of very interesting updates. More and more pro-Russian resources are saying that the Russians indeed managed to cross the river of Dnipro and to capture some positions on the Ukrainian side of the river. So this is the map that was published by several pro-Russian resources who, according to them, has connections with the situation on the ground. So if we take a look at this map, the Russians are trying to tell us that by the morning of the 17th of October of 2025, the armed force of the Russian Federation managed to establish complete control over this territory. So the Russians captured the island, one island, Veliki Vilhovy Island. Furthermore, the Russians managed to answer the Karantiny Island and to answer the Korabel micro-district of the city of Kherson. So this territory is already under complete Russian control. The Russians are saying that Ukrainians didn't expect this offensive operation. Now the Ukrainians have begun the redeployment of their units and the evacuation of their personnel from this part of the city. So the situation is very interesting. We are going to follow this. Most likely, if this information is correct, and if the Russians are able to dig in deeper in this part of the city, most likely the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation will confirm this information sooner or later. We believe that the Minister of Defense hasn't confirmed this information yet because they still have some doubts whether the Russians are able to capture this entire micro-district. But once again, if this is true, obviously this is the beginning of the biggest battle for the city of Kherson. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Pokrovsk direction. During the previous 12 hours, we received lots of very interesting updates, and they are coming from the western part of the city. So as you can see, the map has been adjusted significantly. Basically, we have colored almost completely the western part of the city in Russian favor. So this is the situation once again by the end of the 16th of October. During the previous night, we received one video that confirms Russian control over the western part, and based on this video, we have adjusted the map. So this is the video I'm talking about, and here we can see how Ukrainians of 68th Jaeger Brigade were attacking Russian positions on the territory of the city of Pokrovsk in its western part. We have lots of episodes how Ukrainians were attacking Russian positions, and these buildings and these constructions were geolocated on the territory of the city. So this is exactly the buildings that were attacked by Ukrainians, and based on this video we came to the conclusion that these buildings were captured captured by Russia. So that is why we have adjusted the western part. So this is very important video that confirms the statements and adjustments and corrections of different maps that were provided recently by different mappers, which is very important. And now we see that indeed the situation in the city of Pokrovsk is critical, and most likely the Ukrainians will not be able to hold their positions for a very long period of time. Furthermore, if Zelensky don't get missiles today, most likely the city of Pokrovsk would be abandoned, obviously within the next several weeks, by Ukrainians, of course. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the city of Konstantinovka. And here we can see the same story, very difficult and probably a very critical situation for the armored forces of Ukraine. The Russians continue bombing and attacking the settlement, especially its southeastern part, with missiles and bombs and drones, of course, with the purpose to force the Ukrainians to fall back from this territory. And this is not the most important update. The most important is that the Russians, as a result of offensive operation, managed to answer the southeastern part of the city of Konstantinovka itself. Let's compare the map between the dates. So this is the situation by the end of the 16th of October of 2025, and this is the situation by the beginning of the 17th of October. So all these territories were captured by Russian forces, and we have geolocations that confirm this. So this is very important, and I would like to remind you that we haven't been receiving almost anything from this area for the previous 10 days or so, and we were, if you remember, I pointed your attention that something is happening. We don't have any information, so most likely something is going to happen in coming days, and it happened. So this is the first video that was published by Pro-Ukraine Resources of 104th Territory Defense Brigade. Here we can see how Ukrainians were attacking Russians with FPV drones in the southeastern part of the city of Konstantinovka. There are lots of episodes of Ukrainian FPV drone attacks, and one of the episodes was geolocated exactly in this point. Based on this video, we came to the conclusion that the Russians captured these facilities. Furthermore, we had another video also during the previous night published by Pro-Ukraine Resources. Here we can see the same story. Ukrainians were attacking Russian positions with FPV drones. So these facilities, this construction was damaged. As you can see, there are walls. You can find these walls on the map. So geolocation is this geolocation is 100% correct. And this video, another proof that the Russians captured this territory. So we see that the Russians have begun the battle for the city of Konstantinovka itself. Most likely this video was made probably a week or up to a week ago, so which means that most likely the Russians managed to get even deeper inside of the territory of the city of Konstantinovka, and most likely the clashes are already taking place, maybe for this intersection of railways and the regular road N32. So this is the situation in this area. Now let's move further and let's talk about the city of Kupiansk. The situation is very critical for the armored forces of Ukraine. Today, several pro-Russian resources reported that the armored forces of the Russian Federation, as a result of offensive operation, managed to capture completely the western and the northwestern parts of the city of Kupiansk. So this huge micro-district along the railway station was captured by Russia. Ukrainians were forced to fall back, and it seems that this is a final turning moment in the battle for the city of Kupiansk. Now the Russians have a very strong positions in this area. Ukrainians will never be able to recapture the western part of the city of Kupiansk. Now the Russians will dig in deeper. They will secure the area. They will bring additional forces, and sooner or later the battle for the eastern bank of the river of Oskol will begin, and most likely Ukrainians will not show huge resistance to the armored force of the Russian Federation. Basically, they don't have possibilities to do this because Ukrainians on the eastern bank of the river of Oskol can get supply and support just using drones. But the situation is that in 2025 you have not just drones for supply and support and for attacks. You have drones that are something like anti-drones. They can destroy drones of your opponent, which means that the Russians also try to control the air roads, air supply roads as well. As soon as they see another drone flying in the direction of Ukraine positions, they try to destroy it as soon as possible with just a regular drone. So the city of Kupiansk, now we believe we can start the countdown. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds you we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.